Every day, it becomes increasingly clear that the world that we knew, the world that many of us grew up in and had raised children in or reared grandchildren in up until a few years ago, is over. And I think that it's really hard to grapple with the crumbling of what it is that we all knew and thought would last forever. And, there are some that will say, well, America has never offered all that it was to everyone. And that is true. I say that all the time. But there is still something that happens when the illusion is taken away. I think about it in the same way as when you were a child and you believed in Santa Claus and all the gifts came under the tree and you were excited. And then there was that year that many of us remember where we stopped believing. And it was hard. It was hard to give up that fictional, beautiful place, the North Pole that we had conjured in our imaginations and seen on television screens. But it was the charting of a new path into adulthood. And that's kind of where I feel like we are right now. We've now realized that the illusion that we were sold about America is just that. It isn't real. It was a fictional character, place that was created for the benefit of the few. And now it's gone. And yet it isn't about us picking up on a new path to adulthood. What scares us the most is that right now, we're not quite sure where we are headed. That is where my mind is today, friends, as we get into the Danielle Moodie Show. Buckle up and let's go. So, as I was pulling together today's show, and we'll go through the headlines, of course, but I wanted to center us in a place where I feel like we need to be. And it is a person that is on my wall, Octavia Butler. And what I think is important that we take from her writings, but also from this moment. We're jarred, folks. And I think that because capitalism forces us to work in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of an apocalypse, we never really truly take the time at all to understand and unpack the emotions that we're having around this moment. Sure, we hate Donald Trump. We hate what his regime is doing. But it is not just about what they are doing in the form of horrible, draconian, disgusting policies, but it's also what they have done to our imagination, to our ability to hope and create the kind of life that we want to live. And so I thought today that we would start with looking at a piece that I read earlier. And it is Lessons for the End of the World. It was a piece that was written back in February by Hanif Abdurrajib. I'm going to totally brutalize his name, and I apologize for that. Lessons for the End of the World on Octavia Butler, the LA fires, and the uses and misuses of the things that cannot be recovered. And in this piece, his essay, which is beautiful, and I totally think that everyone should read it, and it's at the New Yorker. he unpacks a lot of my feelings around Octavia Butler's book, The Pair, Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents, one that I reference often. If you have been listening to me back in the days of Woke AF, or you are new to me here. And so I want to address this today because I think that it is really important when we are in the midst of upheaval to ground ourselves in something that is true. And so right before I jump in, dear friends, I will tell all of you, if you have not subscribed to this channel, the Danielle Moodie channel, and you like all of the things that you are hearing, please do take a moment to hit subscribe, like, and share, and feed the algorithm and the fairies inside. Do like, comment, and share. I am trying my best for us to hit the 25,000 subscriber mark. And so, if you have not subscribed yet, do so now. All right, let's get back to the end of the world, shall we? In Parable of the Sower, Hanif writes, Lauren is a 15-year-old Black girl who lives in Los Angeles in a cul-de-sac that is blocked off by walls, which creates a safe haven in a world of desperation and depravity brought on by, among other things, climate disaster. Drought is prevalent, food is scarce, and yes, there are fires. Lauren is afflicted with hyperempathy, which means she feels the pains and joys of others intensely, as if she were experiencing them herself. When the neighborhood she lives in is attacked, Lauren escapes, and she and two others survive from the neighborhood, begin a journey north. Lauren dreams of visiting new planets to spread her belief system, a religion called Earthseed, which holds that God is change, and that though one cannot resist God, he is subject to human influence. And I want to pause here for a moment because what I loved about Parable of the Sower, the first book in this duo by Octavia Butler that she wrote in 1993, is that the funny thing is, she didn't make the New York Times bestseller list until 2020. It wasn't until in the height of the pandemic that we didn't know how long it would last that people started looking for answers, not just in the news or in the paper, but they started to look at science fiction as a way to say, where are we going? Because we don't quite understand. And the only place that many people had seen pandemics and epidemics and apocalypses is where? In science fiction. What I think is really powerful about this story is that Octavia Butler said herself that she was not a soothsayer. She simply looked at the problems that were being ignored and then projected 30 years into the future. She wrote the book in 1993 and it's set in 2024 and 2025. And it was when she said, I took the problems that were being ignored and projected into the future and then wrote from there. We are living in many ways in the end of the America that we knew, in the end of the world that we knew. We're watching in this time both the destruction of our climate, the race in AI that is adding to the destruction in our climate. We're watching what happens when those that are in power have only their needs and their desires in mind. And when the grift goes unchecked, when the lies go unchecked, And it's hard, I think, for us to really understand what it means to live in this moment when what we knew is ending and what is beginning seems absolutely terrifying and devastating. We're so busy doing and trying to fix that we don't ever really just sit in where we are and how we are actually feeling about it. I told many of you that I traveled to Europe last week or the week before. I don't even know because time feels insane. And I can tell you that when I got off of the plane and landed in Heathrow, my shoulders relaxed. While I know that that country is imperfect, what I didn't realize is how much my body, my actual body, was holding on to the fear, the anxiety, and the terror that we are living in every day as we work to not check our phones and doom scroll all day at what Donald Trump is doing next. No matter how much you try to ignore what is happening or try just to dip your toe in, and maybe this show is the place that you're like, okay, you know, I haven't paid attention. I haven't been reading, but I'll give Danielle, 45 minutes and this will be my thing. You don't recognize how this moment, this time, these years under Trumpism has actually been changing our bodies. Not just like the readily environment, but our bodies. And so, I do think that it is important for us not to just find ways to power through this moment, but to really reflect on how this time is really changing us. Because it is, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. It's changing the way we sleep, how we eat, how we think, how we show up to one another. And that is terrifying. And so in the book, in Parable of the Sower, they have made do with what they thought was the end. But things actually get worse. Government has become absolutely unreliable, inept. Lauren Olamina in Parable of the Sower is living with her family in a walled community. It's not a gated community anymore. It's a walled off community because there are no social safety nets. You cannot rely on the police. The police will come and steal from you and beat you and take what it is that you have. There is a drug that is on the street that gives people the same feelings that you have with orgasms when they set fires. So there are fires that are everywhere. The depravity has just gone unchecked. And so people's worlds became smaller and smaller, and they walled themselves off and they created their schools and their church and what have you, but nobody ever leaves. Until one day, the walls come down. And there is nothing that is separating them anymore from the depravity. And then they are having to face what it is that they have pretended that they've been able to just adapt to. And that's where I think that we are right now, is that we continue to kind of move forward and move on and we're still, watching shows and going to brunch, and occasionally in the midst of it, we're doing a march, and we're still trying to normalize the excruciatingly abnormal. But I don't know about you, but I feel like the walls that we've put up to keep us safe, whether it's a wall in our mind or a physical wall between what is actually happening and where we are, I feel like they're beginning to crack and crumble. And I don't know about you, but I am scared about what is on the other side. And so Hanif continues to write, and he says this: the most salient lesson from Sower for me, and the one that runs throughout Butler's work, is about the innovation and adaptation required to survive the unsurvivable. When we are introduced to Lauren's neighborhood at the start of the book, it is an insular community doing its best to take care of its members during a time of scarcity. Residents devote themselves to tasks, be it preaching or gardening or cooking or teaching self-defense. After Lauren sets off on her journey, her band of people grows, and they protect one another in a world that has already collapsed in almost every meaningful way. There's a famous Butler quote that surfaces often. Quote, "There's no single answer that will solve all of our future problems. There's no magic bullet. Instead, there are thousands of answers at least. You can be one of them if you choose to be." That's what I think is important right now. It is trying to figure out how we become the answers, not to every problem, but to the ones that we can hold, the ones that we can actually provide our skills towards. I think what happens too often is that we try to bite off more than we can chew. Well, there's climate change. Well, there are the wars. Well, there is poverty. Well, there is this, that, and the other thing. And all of those things are going to get incredibly worse and quickly. But trying to find one person or one place that is going to save us isn't going to be the thing. And that's truly what you need to grapple with. What we all need to grapple with is that there is no escaping. There's no hiding from what is happening. There's no pretending anymore that it's not going to be as bad, that we can just figure out a way to hunker down and muscle through and hope that there are midterms and hope that there are the 2028 election. Instead of recognizing that, maybe this is just the beginning. And maybe we have to start thinking differently, applying different skills and adapting in a different way that isn't about going back to normal, because that time has passed. But it is about thinking about how we want to live and exist in this moment. He goes on to say this: people are not incorrect about Octavia Butler predicting the future, but they're not always clear about what kind of future she was envisioning. It's not the fires or drug use or tumbling literacy rates that she invented. All of those problems were simply there for her to see. What Sower imagines, rather, is a future in which surviving the seemingly unsurvivable requires people to show some emotional dexterity, some ability to surrender whatever selfishness they've been harboring and see if they have something that someone else needs. This is the starting point of mutual aid. What do I have that someone else may need? Butler's work is outlining a future where posing that question is a requirement. Somewhere isn't just about a time and a fire and a place. It's about people deciding what kind of apocalypse they are going to have and then deciding how to live in its aftermath. That, to me, is the question that we need to be asking ourselves now. We are in it, friends. We are in the eye of the storm. We are in the belly of the beast. We are in the collapse. We're no longer in a place to stop the collapse. The collapse is happening. We're witnessing it every single day. And I'm going to talk about the ways in which today was a fucking doozy. But the decisions that we have to make are, so it's happening. Check. Now, how do I want to live? What do I have to offer in this moment that may provide some service to others so that we can forge a path forward together? Because I think that what is hard for people to understand is that our government is done. And the reason why Black folks are so unsurprised in this moment is because the government was never working for us. It was never designed to work for us. It has actually always been an obstacle to liberation for us. But now that it has become an obstacle to liberation to a majority of white people, maybe now all of the things that we for generations have been screaming into a void will fall on listening ears. One can only dream and hope. But what we are seeing now is that this isn't getting any better. It's only been 79 or 80 days. That's what I find just astonishing at how quickly, how swiftly all this is happening. But before Donald Trump came into office, I kept saying, how long did it take Hitler to undo democracy? 53 days. 53 days. So, with that grounding of understanding that we are in it now, we are in the collapse, what's happening? What's happening in the House of Representatives? What's happening around the country? A whole lot, particularly as it pertains to our ability to vote our way out of this. We talked about this yesterday, but today, voila. House passes bill requiring proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. The SAVE Act the so-called SAVE Act, passed the House today, folks. And it passed with the support of 4 Democrats joining with Republicans. All the measure needs now is to pass the Senate, and online voter registration drives, all of the things that we have seen as the norm in our lives over the last several decades will be gone. And tens of millions of people are going to be disenfranchised. Lawmakers approved the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility SAVE Act in a 220 to 208 vote with 4 Democrats, Representatives Ed Case of Hawaii, Henry Culler of Texas, Jared Golden of Maine, and Marie Gluenskamp Perez of Washington State, joining every Republican present in support of the measure. Now, you're going to say, what does this measure do, Danielle? Well, it would amend the National Voter Registration Act so that states would be required to obtain proof of citizenship in person from people who are registering to vote. So what does that mean exactly? Let me walk you through it. It means that women, 80% of whom change their names upon marriage, who now have a last name that is different than that appears on their birth certificate, won't be able to vote. How many women is that? I don't know, 69, 70 million. Going to voter registration polls, you go there, you present your ID. Now they say, well, you need to show proof of citizenship. How do you show proof of citizenship? Through your birth certificate. Well, ma'am, your birth certificate doesn't match your driver's license. Do you have another form of identification that will show your citizenship? So some will say, well, just use your passport. Well, guess what I learned? 140 million Americans, nearly half of Americans, don't have a passport. So, if your name is different than that appears on your birth certificate, and you don't have a passport, and I'm making you do all of this in person, guess what has now happened? You lose your right to vote. And because you've been put out so much and so discouraged, you probably don't show back up again. And the months or weeks that it would take you to straighten these things out with, let's say, somebody that works inside of the federal government, well, Donald Trump has fired over 200,000 federal workers. So better luck next election, or maybe never. This is the most brazen attack on voting this country has seen prior to 1964 America. And 4 Democrats voted to make it so. We already have laws on the books that say that non-citizens can't vote. We already have laws that if you were caught voting, that you would go to jail, federal prison for a number of years. Republicans have finally gotten their wish to disenfranchise the population that, aside from Black people, they hate the most? Women. Because what have we been learning in poll numbers so far? That white educated women aren't voting Republican. They're actually overwhelmingly voting Democrat. So let's connect all of the dots that have happened since 2022. The Dobbs decision, Trump's stacked Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. Women now, in a majority of states in this country, no longer have bodily autonomy. Now, 3 years later, Donald Trump is back in the White House and he's about to disenfranchise 69 to 70 million American women who are married and have changed their names. And this is not just women, it is trans folks and non-binary folks. Like I said, 140 million Americans don't have a passport. And these changes cost, hundreds of dollars in some places. It's not just a one size fits all. This is what they passed today. It goes to the Republican Senate, and Donald Trump will no doubt sign it sometime very soon. They never wanted us to vote. When Donald Trump said on the campaign trail that you'll just need to vote this one time, he wasn't having a quote unquote, right, like sundown moment. He was telling you the truth. The reason why they don't give a damn about what it is that they're doing right now is because they're not seeking your vote ever again. We are not voting our ways out of this. That's not how it's going to happen. So what else happened in the House of Representatives? Well, this. The House also passed the GOP budget after conservative revolt collapses. A critical bloc of fiscal hawks dropped its opposition after a pledge from the top Senate Republican that its chamber would embrace far deeper cuts than the measure would require. Why does this matter? Well, what does this budget plan lay out, dear friends? Approval of the plan, which was in doubt until nearly the very end, was a victory for Republican leaders and Trump. It allowed them to move forward with crafting major legislation to enact a huge tax cut for the rich. Finance how? By hurting the poor. Finance with deep reductions in spending on federal programs and pushing it through Congress over Democratic opposition. I don't know how these people sleep at night, but I'm assuming that without a heart, without a soul, without any empathy whatsoever, you probably sleep really well. How are the rich going to avoid taxes moving forward? By gutting every single program that helps the most vulnerable among us. Because that's how fucking greedy and disgusting and depraved these people are. The combination of these two pieces of legislation have solidified America's collapse. They are creating the conditions for absolute chaos. They are creating the conditions for Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower and Talents. They are creating the conditions for debt slavery, for drug use, for crime, because what future do you have when the Department of Education is gutted, when now higher education is wildly unaffordable? Doesn't even matter. Donald Trump is taking over higher education institutions. So I don't even know what the fuck you're sending your kids there for to learn, except how Donald Trump is God and white men are great. Everything that you have ever known about America and about the possibility of America is done. I encourage everyone to call your members, to call your senators and tell them to vote against the SAVE Act. I encourage you to call, and not just call, but show the fuck up. Because when I said that the warmer the weather gets, the wilder things are going to become, this is what I'm talking about. When people finally wake up to the fact that everything that you have relied upon to make your life just a little bit more manageable is gone, so that Elon Musk can buy another home, bankrupt another fucking business, so that the rich can get even richer while you can't even afford fucking eggs? How long do you think that that is going to be sustainable for? Because history tells us not very fucking long. So that's part of where we are. Where we close out today is around Donald Trump's manipulation of the stock market for the benefit of himself and his cronies. Donald Trump has been the puppeteer of the market. And they've all been talking about buying the dip, buying the dip, buying the dip. Well, only people with, oh, I don't know, an excess amount of cash can afford to do that shit. The rest of us who are just, again, trying to make a dollar out of 15 cents can't afford to just throw some money to buy in the dip, hoping that then we make it back when it comes back. But Donald Trump, he knew when he was going to float those things back up, didn't he? Trump administration faces insider trading investigation over stock market surge. On Wednesday, Adam Schiff, pointed to a statement that Trump posted to social media hours before he announced his 90-day tariff pause. This is a great time to buy, DJT. Trump wrote on Truth Social minutes after the markets opened. So, folks, sure, Adam Schiff is calling for an investigation, and he has the power as an individual senator to call for an investigation and even use the resources in his own office to do that, but he doesn't have subpoena power. In order for an investigation to actually have teeth and to happen, guess who would need to call it? The chairs of the Oversight Committee, of the Finance Committee, all of whom are occupied by bootlicking Republicans. So the thing that I will say here is that what I appreciate about Adam Schiff and what we saw with the January 6th committee hearings is that Adam Schiff knows how to weave a story. He knows how to work the media. And there is nothing more that people hate than being taken advantage of, than feeling like the rich are getting richer and laughing at them all the way to the bank. That's the shit Americans don't like. So, while again, I doubt that any of these Republicans in the Senate will actually hold investigations, I do believe that there is a story here for Adam Schiff and Democrats to tell, and it's a good one. So finally, in this shit show that is today, this motherfucker, Lyons is his name. Todd Lyons. He's the director of ICE. Do you know what Todd Lyons said recently? He wants to run deportations like Amazon Prime for human beings. And you're going to say, what, Danielle? Huh? No, this is actually what he said. Quote, "We need to get better at treating this like a business," the acting ICE director Todd Lyons said. He said that he wanted to see a deportation process, quote, like Amazon Prime, but with human beings. So, trafficking. So, you compared human beings to packages that can be left at the front door. You want trucks driving around at the numbers that Amazon Prime trucks drive around, but picking up innocent people off the street like packages and then bringing them to for-profit detention centers. You want to be more efficient about your dehumanization. Sounds about Naziist to me. What do you all think? And if that wasn't bad enough, today, ICE sent out a tweet. And I'm going to put it up for you. And I want everybody to take a collective deep breath before I put it up. Woo-saw that breath out. And just know we are going to work through this together. Everybody ready? U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement posted. ICE enforces 400 plus federal laws to ensure public safety and national security. I want you to read the picture closely. If it crosses the U.S. border illegally, it is our job to stop it. Now look under that. People, money, products, ideas. We have entered the point of honestly no return. I had no idea that it was ICE's job to stop ideas from crossing the border. People, okay. Money, okay. Products, drugs, guns, okay. Ideas, welcome to the age of the thought police. We're now thinking and having your own ideas has now been criminalized. And again, if you think that this is just going to be about those that are quote unquote undocumented or those that are not here legally or bop, 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 bop. No, no. They don't want you thinking. You are dangerous if you think. And so they are going to put a stop to it one way or the other. Gatherings like this, shows like this, voices like mine will be criminalized soon. So when I say that voting alone ain't stopping this is what the fuck I mean. They are coming for everything. And when people are asked, what are you willing to sacrifice in this moment? Everyone needs to think long and fucking hard. Because it is not just going to be about a boycott. It is not just going to be about things that make you a little bit uncomfortable. They are coming for everything. So you have to ask yourself, what are you going to be willing to fight for? What are you willing to sacrifice? That's my call to action today. Is that marches are great and they're important. And we're going to have more of them. There is one coming up again being organized for April 19th. And those non-melanated people need to go ahead and march. But we also need plan B, C, D through Z. Because they are dismantling everything that we value, everything that we have known, everything that we hold true every single fucking day. And a majority of Americans still don't get it. Because they're watching Fox. They don't know about the SAVE Act. They won't know about it until they roll up for midterms and try and go vote. They don't hear about Todd Lyons referring to human beings as packages that he just wants to pick up on the street and toss into a back of a van. They think it won't be them. They don't know about Amir Mekhled, the lawyer, U.S. citizen that was just detained at the airport for 90 minutes because his firm is representing a Michigan University student that was protesting and they wanted access to his phone and his documents. A majority of Americans are still not paying attention. So I urge every single person that is watching this live, that will watch this later. You need to be the teachers. You need to share the shows that you're watching. You need to share the articles that you're watching. Post them everywhere. You need to encourage your family members that are white that you've decided, oh, I don't want to talk to Uncle Joe, or no, I'm not talking to dad, or what have you. You're the only ones that can get through to them. So you got to figure out a way through. And all of us collectively have got to figure out, what is it that we are going to be willing to do in order not just to secure our liberty, but the liberty of future generations to come? That is the question. We are in absolutely dark times. And it is okay to cry. It is okay to have breakdowns, but it is not okay to give up. You have got to commit to hopefulness. You have got to commit to action in ways that you've never been asked to do before. But hopelessness, that's for the privileged. The rest of us actually have to do something. So I give you this information today and every day, not as a way to beat you down and for you to get off of here and want to just scream into the void or go into bed and never to get out again. But it is to provide you with the information, to provide the fuel that feeds the fury for you to take action. As Octavia Butler said, we will not solve all of the world's problems, but we need to take our piece of it and take action where we can. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. As you know, I will be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern, with my friend Wajahat Ali for Democracy Ish Live. So do tune in then. And you will be getting weekend video of the Danielle Moodie Show that will go up on Saturday. I'm also, friends, doing a show over on Mary Trump Media, Get Woke with Danielle Moodie, that you can check out there. And still, if you have not subscribed to my Substack, The Damn Digest, I'm so excited because my Substack has landed at number 41 on the new Substack bestsellers list, which is super exciting. As is, I think right now ranked in the top 100 of U.S. political Substack. So head over to Substack, subscribe, and if you can afford to and have the resources to, please do consider becoming a paid subscriber to the Damn Digest and help support independent media and independent voices like myself, who this is how I make my living. So appreciate anything and everything that you have the ability to spare. And I want to say thank you to those that have provided super stickers and super thanks today and all week long. I really, really do appreciate all of you so very much. And again, it's independent media. So everything, anything that you can spare, any dollar, it all goes to allowing me to create more content, do more work, and deliver you all the kind of information that you need on a regular basis. So I really do appreciate it. And yes, Kate, it is all in the show notes. It tells you where to follow me. It tells you where you can connect. And again, yeah, if you are looking to check out more of me, and I'm thinking about launching a short show on Substack, which folks have said that they would want. So I'm excited about that. So do stay tuned. As always, dear friends, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane. And in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern for Democracy Ish. Be well, friends.